Hi everyone. In today's video, I'm going to talk about how you can drink and make tea safer. Coming up. Hi everyone. This is Ernesto from AttaBoyCowBoy, and on this channel, we give you health and wealth tips to help you be more successful. Now in today's video, I want to talk about how you can make tea safer. Now I had an interesting experience this weekend. I went to a restaurant with my friend John and we were having some tea. And coincidentally it was $6 tea. It was really expensive for a cup of tea. And I got the tea and I thought, wow, this stuff's gotta be something really special. And it came in a plastic bag, or basically a nylon bag. That nylon bag is actually called PET plastic, P-E-T. You've probably seen these. It's a really fine kind of plastic bag, and it has the leaves in there. And when you steep it in your hot water, obviously it's releasing all the taste and the beneficial properties of the tea into your cup. The only problem is that these types of tea bags are really toxic. Again, as I've mentioned in other videos, you want to avoid disposable plastics as much as you can in your daily life, in your food, in your personal hygiene, you name it. Just avoid it. When you use one of these plastic or nylon bags in your cup of tea, you're releasing billions of nanoparticles of plastic into your tea. So basically you're drinking this tea, you're using, all the other products in your life to have plastic. So some scientists are saying that we are ingesting so many nanoparticles of plastic in a week that we're actually ingesting the equivalent of one credit card's worth in a week into your body. Obviously that's going to be really toxic. And the problem is that what really speeds up that process and helps facilitate that release of those nanoparticles is heat. Heat is the worst for plastics. It melts it. It releases it into your food. So my friend was asking me, well, which one should I use? Well, that's a good question. You basically have three options. You have tea that comes in these fancy nylon bags. And coincidentally, this is what high-end teas usually come in. But it's actually the most unhealthy and you don't want to spend your money on it. So just remember, just because something costs more doesn't mean that it's better quality or it's better for you. These are actually worse. But these only make up about 5% of the tea bags that people consume. The other most common kind is the kind that comes in paper, kind of like these little paper packages. These are fine, it's just paper. So basically you're going to steep it in your hot water, it's going to release the good stuff and a lot of the bad stuff is going to stay inside. And because it's only paper, it's not going to really affect you. It's not going to have any negative consequences. So again, if you have an option, the number one option is going to be, of course, loose leaf tea with no plastic. That tends to be fresher. You can grab larger quantities of the tea, so the tea is going to be stronger. And the second option is going to be these paper bags. And the third option is these nylon bags. And actually, this is not really an option in my book. When I went to this fancy restaurant, my friend John, and they brought me that tea, I didn't drink it. I didn't want to ingest those billions of nanoparticles. I actually read an article that you can ingest up to 10 billion nanoparticles of plastic from one bag of tea like this. So basically that kind of turned me off to that cup of tea. I really didn't want to ingest all that plastic. So those are the three forms of tea. Now I had a question recently from a patient that likes to drink a lot of green tea, because green tea has a lot of caffeine, it has a lot of good chemical properties in it to make you healthy. And the patient was asking me, you know what, should I eat the tea or should I steep it? And that's actually a common question. I've been asked that before, and definitely you do not want to eat it. You want to use the tea in hot water, steep it. There's a reason for that. Teas are going to come in roots, stems, leaves. And all these different herbs that are used for teas have different medicinal properties or health benefits. Some of those benefits are unlocked from you eating the herb directly, grinding it, or steeping it in hot water. Now, if it's something that needs to be steeped or basically boiled or soaked in hot water, and you eat it, you're not gonna get those benefits because your body is not able to leach out the chemical properties out of that herb that it needs to benefit. So the only way sometimes to unlock those medicinal or health properties from a tea is to actually heat it up. So you don't want to eat it. Another reason is that most of the tea that we use is grown in developing countries like India and Sri Lanka. They're actually the two major tea growers in the world, along with China. And in those countries, they use a lot of toxic pesticides. Now, in the European Union or the United States or other developed countries, we don't use some of the more toxic pesticides like DDT. But that doesn't mean that people that sell us fruits and vegetables and teas don't use them. DDT is legal in Mexico, so they can use it on the produce they send to us. DDT and some of these other toxic pesticides are legal to use in India and Sri Lanka and China. So they can actually use it on the tea and export it to us. So that's going to have DDT or some of these other toxic pesticides on it. And you don't want to eat that because it's a carcinogen. It's very toxic. Now, a lot of those issues can be remediated by buying organic tea and avoiding that issue altogether. But even still, remember that organic doesn't mean that you're not using pesticides. It means that you're using organic pesticides, which tend to be less toxic. Whatever reason, tea plants tend to attract a lot of pests and insects. So pesticides are necessary to grow a lot of it. So it's better just to not eat it, steep it. Okay, so now another question I had was, should I boil my tea or should I microwave it? And that's a common question because a lot of people are in a hurry. They want to hurry up and get their tea. And it's a good question. And actually, I tend to use the microwave a lot for my tea. I actually just made some right now. But one thing I would suggest is that if you're going to use a microwave, I recommend microwaving the water, bringing the water out, putting your tea bags in there, and then maybe putting a dish on top of the cup like this and let it sit for a little while. That's actually what I did with this tea here. And you let it brew. There's just something about microwaves that when you microwave foods, it sometimes changes the chemical structure of it. And sometimes that could be good, sometimes that could be bad. We're not totally sure. There's a lot of research on that and it's inconclusive. So in general, I just don't microwave my teas. I microwave the water because water is not going to really be affected by it. And I just put the tea in afterwards. That seems to be a lot more effective. Now that goes for some types of leaves. Some types of teas have bark or wood or stems, and those require more time. They need to be cooked more. So the best way to cook those types of teas is to boil it or steep it with boiling water. This tends to be more effective in extracting the health benefits you need from that woodier tea. Now, another question I get is, what's better, leaves or stems? That's a good question. Now, higher quality teas are gonna be tastier. They tend to have more aroma. They tend to use more leaves, like this one. If you could smell this, it has a really strong odor because there's a lot of leaves in it, and leaves tend to be more expensive. Now, this box here, this tea costs $10, but it comes in nylon, versus this box of tea, which costs $1 at the dollar store, comes in paper. And then you have a mid-grade tea here. This is Celestial Seasonings for $5, which comes in paper. Which one's better? Well, actually, the cheaper teas tend to be better for your health. This tea and the dollar tea. The reason being is that cheaper teas tend to use more bark and stems because they don't have as much odor. So people prefer the odor. They think they're getting something more valuable that's of better quality, where they can pick up the bag and they can smell it. The thing is that a lot of the health benefits that are in these plants are actually in the stems and the barks. So when you heat those stems and barks, they're going to have higher concentrations of the medicinal properties that are in that tea. So again, you tend to get more benefit from cheaper teas. They tend to have higher concentrations of stems or branches, where they have higher concentrations of medicinal properties, and they tend to be in paper versus nylon or plastic bags. So it's much better for your health. Another issue you want to look at is what you're using to heat your tea in. Make sure that you're using stainless steel or glass to heat your tea in. Don't use plastic. Again, don't ever put any type of plastic into your microwave, because then you run into that same problem again of releasing nanoparticles into your tea. You don't want to do that. A glass cup like this is just fine. This is going to be much better for you. I also recommend not using low quality pots to heat your tea in. Don't use aluminum, because aluminum is going to release aluminum into your tea and your water, or your food for that matter. So don't buy aluminum pots or pans at all, because whenever you heat them, you're releasing that aluminum. That aluminum again goes into your brain and gets stored, and it causes dementia, it causes memory issues, and it causes neurological problems. So you want to avoid that issue altogether. The best pots and pans you can buy are actually made out of iron. Iron is the best because it releases trace amounts of iron into your food, and we need iron. Iron's good for you. Your body uses whatever iron it needs and it kicks out the rest. And iron is good for fighting against anemia. You need it for producing red blood cells, and your body needs it to maintain its oxygen levels in its blood supply. So iron is good, aluminum is bad, so no aluminum. Another question I got was, what's the best type of tea to drink? Well, I look at teas from a medicinal standpoint. So the type of tea you drink really depends on what your needs are medicinally, if you have some health needs. But if you're looking at a tea just for general health and well-being, in my opinion, you can't go wrong with green tea. So green tea is really high in a compound called epigallocatechin-3 gallate, EGCG. Now this chemical is one of the strongest anti-cancer compounds you can find in your diet. It's also a really strong anti-inflammatory, and it's great for anti-aging. So green tea is a great tea if you want to drink a particular tea on a regular basis. Now a couple of the cons to green tea is that it has low levels of caffeine, which can be stimulating, and for some people it's a little much. I don't drink coffee, so I drink green tea occasionally to exercise, like to go to the gym or to go swimming or something like that, to get my heart rate up, and it really has a strong effect on me. It really gets me wired. If I need to stay up late at night and I'm dragging, I might drink a little bit of green tea. Another thing is that high amounts of green tea has been found to lower testosterone in men. So if you're a man, don't drink too much green tea. I would recommend a glass a day at most, and that's enough. You're going to get all the benefits of it without the cons. I remember when I went to Japan and I was in China, people drink green tea all day long, and it's great. They have actually one of the lowest cancer rates in the world, but it also affects your testosterone, and that's not good for other reasons. So thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, please comment below, and I'm happy to answer your questions. Thank you.